welcome to Flooring Models Kit Review Time. Today we've got Iteleri's brand new tooling of the F-35 Lightning II. Okay, now this is in the giant 1/32 scale as well, so this is, I suppose, the cutting edge of everything. You've got a brand new aircraft that's been introduced, brand new toolkit and everything else like that. Now this particular version is the A, as we know, sort of comes in three flavours. You get the A, which is the normal version of the actual Lightning, if you like. Then you get the B, which is obviously the short takeoff and landing one. That's the one with the big fans and the actual moving tail and everything else, i.e. the replacement for the Harrier. And then you've got the C, which is the sort of US Navy's version of it. It's got quite a larger wing section. It's designed for carrying more weight, and obviously you've got a bit more endurance as well. So from that point of view, it'd be really nice if we could see all three versions of this out in the near future. As we said, pretty much cutting edge technology, so it'd be nice to see if they're kitted as well. Okay, so there we go, that's your actual bits down there. This is what they call the C-stall, which is quite a different one, conventional takeoff and landing. Okay, as you can see, it's fully endorsed by Lockheed Martin, as you might expect. Okay, so looking around on the box, as I say, kit number for this one is 2506. It's saying here it's going to be around about 50 centimeters long. So we've got a little bit of photo etch down there. Looks like we've got some framework, and we've got a nice set of decals with various nations that are taking on the actual F-35 program itself. On the end of the box we've got some various things down there saying about fine engraved recessed panel lines, as we might expect, fully detailed engine, which is a really nice touch, full avionics, detailed cockpit base, things like that, and all the other parts down in there. Alright, and then down on the other side we can see all the different versions that we've got down there. So we've got markings for all of these, which is quite nice because we've obviously got the two test and evaluation units from Eglund. And we've got the Nellis ones as well down there as well. It's quite nice. We've got the Italian version, okay, and then obviously we've got the Australian, and then we've got the Netherlands ones as well, and we've actually got the Israeli Air Force ones down there as well. Quite nice. If you're thinking US, UK version, don't forget we're having the B, so obviously at some point we'd like to see the V-stall version. Okay, so down in here, this is completely, I have not looked in here at all, as usual. I haven't read anybody else's reviews. This is my own review, not led by somebody else. Okay, so in the box, which is a big old box, we have the usual way of doing some of this. So I'll just stick some of that there for the moment. I will move it shortly. But first of all, we're going to have a look at the instructions. And this is quite a big, meaty little booklet down in here. So looks like we've got stickers down there, which is going to be something to be interesting. Okay, so we have a little booklet, two-sided, as we can see. So usual thing, we've got the actual parts trees and everything else down in there. We can see, nice, going to have an engine, weapons trees, all the rest of it. The usual blurby bits down in there. Colour call-outs for it down there, quite nice. We've got federal standard codes down as well, but obviously they're not written on, so you're going to have to keep referring back to here as well. Okay, usual thing, starting off with the seat. We've got the actual oxygen bottle being fitted down onto there. Looks like we've got some photo etch belts for the harnesses and various things being fitted to the seat. Cockpit tub looks quite basic, if I'm honest. There's not a lot to it. It's a one piece put down in there. Some rudder pedals, controls, things like that. And then obviously instrument panel, which don't forget this thing just has a giant TV. Okay, it's like a 27-inch monitor stuffed in front of it. Okay, and being put in. Again, looks quite basic, but to be honest, these modern aircraft don't have much in the way of switches and that. It's all digital these days. Okay, opening up a few little holes down on the inside, usual thing as we'd expect. We've sort of got this sort of clamshell effect with it going down. Okay, fitting that cockpit down into there as well. Then we've got obviously this is for the actual entire framework for the open position. Okay, so you're going to have it either open or closed. Don't forget it actually lifts forward with this particular jet. Then you're working up obviously into the actual weapon bays down in those. So we've got a little bit of detail going down in those, opening up holes obviously as required and fitting those into the lower half. Okay, then we're moving around, got to put some intakes together, then we're putting some engines together which look quite basic, okay, but don't forget they don't have as many moving parts as they used to, and then fitting down that intake into the engine, sub-assemblies, things like that, formers being put through like that. Okay, so again, nicely done. I don't think we're going to see any of that engine unless there's room for panels being open. Some parts being fitted down onto these, some more of the sort of the intake parts, things like that being fitted in there. Then we've actually got the wheel wells being fitted in, and then we've got the nose bay being fitted into that one as well. Okay, gear being put together and then being put in. Okay, and then obviously vice versa, as you can imagine, and then same with the nose, depending if you want it open or closed. Okay, two halves coming together, nose going on, so we don't get a radar system shadowing on the nose, which is a bit unfortunate. Open up the holes if you want the pylons to be fitted on this one. Then we got slats and flaps and various parts being put into the wing section and the tails, and then obviously that's how it's being fitted in and on, just slide into the back, so it looks like we don't have a posable rear tail section either, so you can't have it sort of slanted. Okay, and then underneath we've got more paneling being fitted down in between and everything else, as you imagine, like that. So the actual bay doors, if you're going to be going in for the closed position, and then again being done if it's all going to be closed up, so you don't want to see any of the bays, and then a little bit more work needed to go in to put these in if you're going to have them opened, which to be honest looks very nice indeed. Okay, and then just the same on the other side, it's a mirror. A little bit complicated, it's showing this, but actually it's not, it's just these actual doors being fitted in. Very nice big latches and things like that being fitted down into those. Okay, same with the other side, it's just a myriad of wheels going down, and then obviously we've got gear going in with the wheels being fitted, gear doors, things like that, as you can imagine. And then same on the other side, so that's the mirror. Got a little bit of photo etch. I assume this is the photo etch, perhaps it isn't actually, it might be plastic, just for the little collar work, the little sort of turkey feather type things down on the back, on the nozzle. And then obviously we've got various things. We've got that front camera unit being fitted down in there. Okay, and then in on the back, nose wheel sections being fitted in. We have got little pylons for putting those in, so those all locked in there as well. Okay, and then we've got things like the weapons fit, so we've got JDAM being fitted down into the inside as well, if you want to give it a little bit of a weapons fit. And then we've got AMRAMs, we assume, and probably Sidewinder X's. Yeah, we do. We've got the advanced Sidewinders being fitted in as well. Pylons, if you want to fit those, and the outside pylons, which is a nice touch, exactly the same on both. And then those parts being fitted in. This nozzle section is going to need a little bit of cleanup. Air-to-air refueling door being fitted, either open or closed as well, so you can do that. Okay. Then rudder and tails being popped on, as you can see. Canopy work, what we were saying about this is a one-piece canopy with that internal framework being put in down in there, and then we do have these, which as we've seen before, we think these might be a little bit of photo etch. Oh, there's the photo etch on this side being fitted down in there, so that will add a nice little bit of detail down in there. And then again, exactly the same for open or closed. And then obviously if you're having it open, we've got the boarding ladder, and then obviously fitting that ladder if you want it open or closed as well. Standard type thing, so we've got weapons fit to it if you wanted to go in the different versions. Okay. And then down in here we've got colour callouts for this, actually for the one being fitted right the way through this down onto those ones, and obviously markings being called out for what versions you actually have, and the same on the underside just down in there like that. Okay, and then the side views, common details for all the stencil data. Okay, and then obviously the more specific ones per nation's aircraft being put on there, literally just like that. Again, really nice. So weapons fit, all you're going to do is get that big old JDAM down there to the GBU-31. Then we've got the Sidewinder X, and we've got the AMRAM, which we presume is a D, okay, being fitted down in as well. So in some ways, not as complicated as I thought it might be. Okay, so we've also got decal sheet. So usual thing, we are going to be honest, they usually tend to be quite thick, not exactly brilliant. These actually don't look too bad in the great scheme of things on decals, as you can probably see from these. They're not too bad. Everything tends to be here, everything's in register, but let's face it, it's all in grey. Okay, so not too much of a problem, just maybe a little bit thick on those. Nice touch this is actually we get the stickers for the actual masking for all of this detail being fitted down here. So actually what you're going to do is you're going to put all of these in, these little wiggly ones down in here, okay? Then you're going to actually put the sort of base colour, the base colour down for this lighter stuff, and then go over with that darker colour and then peel and remove to show off this stuff down in here. Okay, so it's talking about obviously the different colours it has down in there. One little bit of insider reference for this, they're changing the colour of this. So again, if you're doing it now, no problem at all, but actually the version they've got on the box is probably a little bit more closer, because I've heard on the grapevine that this actual round tape, that is what this is actually referring to all over this, is going to be darker rather than lighter. Okay, so from that point of view, it's going to be a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this down in here. So this gives you a bit of sense of scale to all of this. So if we can cut our way in, Actually, this bag sort of is where it fits, isn't it? Okay, so we can just do this without cutting the nose off. As you can see, this is actually quite a large part down on here. You can see. The first thing that strikes you is this stuff is very heavy. Okay, this is the actual that plating system that you can see on them, and it just does look a little bit heavy. Also, we've got these huge gates that are going to have to be cut off out of this. But don't get me wrong, it's a very thick, heavy-duty bit of kit on this one. And don't forget, it's all composite, so don't expect to see rivets and details and panels, because technically it doesn't have it. So it is quite basic in its construction. There's not a massive amount to look round and see on this, and I'm just looking at some of these details on this, and I am wondering if perhaps it's a little bit too thick and heavy for its scale. The thing is, I haven't been up to close to one of these yet, so I wouldn't actually know, but it just looks like some of this tape here, it's quite softly around the edges, as I imagine it is, but this is quite sharp on here. Now, as I said, these are the excess panels, so if you wanted to chop into these to go down into it and perhaps detail it, obviously that is your option and your way of going in. It doesn't look too bad, it just looks a little bit heavy, but it may be that's what it actually is, because these are access panels down in here, so you imagine the fasteners and things like that, that's what it is. But you get all these lines all over this stuff. This is what it's hiding all these joints. Okay, so that's the problem with it, but generally I think it's okay, no problem at all with that. It's pretty much okay. We've got no sort of sink marks or anything else like that generally in the plastic. It is just quite plain plastic as you look at it like that though. On the underside of the shell, so they cut these bags right in close, so down in here we have the far more delicate sort of underside, as you can see on this one. This is where obviously all your weapon bays and everything will put into the strength into all of this, but you can see it's very nicely done. Again, the plastic just looks very heavy. This is what I call the sort of, you know, toy effect though. As soon as you start getting in the larger scales, you need to almost sort of, you know, modulate paintwork and do different tints and tones and things like that, just to make it look a little bit more authentic. But generally it is all there, it's all fine. Again, there's no sink marks in it, there's no sort of mismoldy bits or anything else like that, not that we tend to get that these days. But that is okay. So when you pop these two together, to give you a sort of idea how big and chunky this thing is, you can see it is going to be quite a chunky old jet. Don't think this is some small little tiny thing. This is actually quite a lump. Okay, but generally no problem with those. Those look quite nice. So down into the meat of the kit, we've got these bags are literally right up. Can't even get the knife in there to cut into them. Okay, so as you can see, a very large sprue. So if we run down it this way, as you can see, great engine detail, great detail in this. We haven't got any ejector pins anywhere that sort of shows or will be a problem. Again, nice sharp blade down in there. We've got these which are a bit of a pain, so we're going to have to snip them out and clean them up, but again, in this scale it's quite easy to get into. And again, this one down in here, so that's not too bad at all. And then obviously we've got a little bit of piping work which will go onto this engine with this sort of, you know, honeycomb design onto this one. Again, doesn't look too bad, just looks a little bit thick and chunky and everything else like that. But generally we've got the intakes, but obviously unfortunately it is all about the inside. They sort of missed the beat, these. I don't know why they don't do them with the ejector pins on the outside, because you can't see those. They always put them on the inside. But anyway, there we go. So that's going to be a bit nasty, but are you actually going to be able to see that far into the engine? That is the difference. The nose, okay, there's the old nose for that one. That looks quite nice as well, no problem at all. Yeah, I think again this is almost, we were speaking about the Revel kits where, you know, you're paying a little bit of a cheaper price, but at the end of the day what you actually end up with is a great starter point to your model that you can then go off and carry it through and do other things to it. So again, another big old sprue. So if we start down on here, we can see we've got some nice detail down with these bays. Doesn't look too bad at all. It's quite crisp and sharp, quite liking the look of that. And again, with the nose ones around in here, these different electronics bays, the wiring, all of that, again, a really nice part. The only thing is, as you can see down on here, this cockpit is pretty lacking, but it's not a lie. This is pretty basic. That's what it is in reality, folks. Welcome to touchscreen. Okay, so instead of switches and circuit breakers and things, it's now on flat screen TVs with touchscreen. Some more details down in here. I imagine that's the inside of one of the bays, and then we've got the actual nose section for the actual windscreen. The actual comes up as well, so that's pretty nice. Down on the flip side, actually, this is very nice indeed. We've got some nice piping work you can see down on here, but again, slightly let down by these, which are going to be not seen, I don't think, but again, big old punchy ejector pin marks in there. It's a sign of sort of cheap moulding, if you like. Okay, but again, really nice bay on this one. So actually, when you start looking around at some of this stuff, it's sort of a kit of two halves. You've got quite detailed areas in the bays and everything else, but let's face it, up stop, on the outside of this aircraft, it's very, very plain. There isn't much at all going around on it. So I think it's pretty true to form. Okay, so if we just do this, we'll come down into here. Okay, so if I can get a blade in here again. Okay. So, slats and various things going down on this particular kit. Again, there's nothing really to look at any of this down on here. We've got this bar system, which is obviously the canopy framework, as you can imagine. So down here we've got the leading edge slats, both sides of those being fitted in. We've got parts of the seat which actually look quite nice. The seat itself looks a lot better in the flesh than it does in those kit parts, because actually that isn't too bad at all. When you're looking around at this detail, I think it'll be quite nice once it's all painted up and sorted out. Again, it's quite sort of simple in its design. Okay, so we've got various other parts down on here. We've got the gear. You can probably see down in here we've got the nose gear and then the main gear going through. Some of the other parts and things like that. And then again we've got the tailplanes with obviously that moulded in lining. Okay, and then obviously we've got flat wheels. So that's quite nice as well. So we've got nice flat wheels down on this. No problem with any of that at all. Again, it's just a shame we've got a few little ejector pins in some areas where perhaps we wouldn't want them. Okay, but generally we're not too bad at all. These ejector pins down in here and here and here and here have all been sanded out, so you get a better fit, but obviously test fitting is essential to those to make sure you're all good. Okay, then we've actually got slightly bigger bag for once. Okay, so down in this guy we've actually got the wings. Nice details. Again, you're going to be using a little bit of round tape to round on these, no problem at all. And then these parts down in here, very nicely done as well. Okay, and then we're assuming this is underside of the wings. Again, we've taped up areas, things like that. These are this sort of turkey feather units that are going to go back on the back of the engine. And then as you work your way down, we've got outside of gear doors and various parts at the back. Then we've got the tails itself. So we've actually got the tail planes with the actual rudder set, things like that. And as we can see, got nice little bits of detail down into these, no problem at all. I think these are actually quite nice. That's quite nicely done. All of those running its way round. Again, inside we have got a couple of ejector pins, things like that in there, but obviously we wouldn't want to ideally see them. And then for opening up the holes in the wing sections, you'd be doing it like that if you're going to be fitting the pylons. Okay, so generally not too bad at all. Speaking of pylons, we got the weapons fit down in here. Couple of bags. Okay, so we're assuming we're a match pair, which we are. Okay, so again, this pylon's quite nicely detailed actually, but again, is it oversized for the scale? The riveting does look very heavy, but is that riveting or is it just fasteners? That's the thing. Again, not being too up on these, but unfortunately I do know a thing or two about missiles. Those look very heavy with the actual sort of fastener design on those, but quite nice on the actual J-dam itself. We've got raised riveting as well as recessed fasteners and things like that. But again, the actual the advanced pack, which turns it into a J-dam, this just looks a little bit softly moulded onto it. I'd like to see that a little bit stronger. But generally working down in here, we've got all the actual fasteners and latches and things like that for the gear doors and everything else like those. So as you can imagine, we've got plenty of that going down in there. And then as you can see, we've got some nice work on the wheels. They're not brilliant, but at least they are flat and everything else. We can do things with that. Again, these are the actual pylons for inside the bays. They look quite nicely detailed. That's pretty good down on there. Then over on here, we've got the outer wing with the Sidewinder X. Looks a little bit chunky, if we're honest, but I think it'll be okay, and it is totally manageable just like that. That isn't too bad, any of those parts like that. So we've actually got a little box, which I don't know if there's anything in it. There's not. We get a little box just like this, but this is stuck to it. Okay, so we'll just pop that back in there. Okay, so canopy is like smashed and rolling around in here, which isn't exactly brilliant. Bearing in mind this is a brand new kit. Okay, so we have got some parts down here. So we got this tinted canopy, and as you can probably see, it has this sort of gold tint, but unfortunately I don't think it's tinted enough. There are a lot more golden in this, and to be honest, this doesn't give you that sort of, you know, radar absorbing type of colour to it. It's more like an afterthought. You see it like this, it looks quite clear, then you catch it on the angles. It looks like it's just a half job, if you know what I mean, putting those down on there. Then we got some of these little guys as well. This is the camera unit, okay, fitted in, and it's all tinted as well. Then we've actually got the actual camera bay for the front, and then obviously there's one behind the pilot as well, don't forget, so we can look behind him. That's down in there as well with those ones, and a few more of the little lights and lenses and things like that. Again, pretty basic and sort of crude almost in its way of doing it. Then here, I don't know how many sheets we've actually got. Is it just the one? I think it is, if I can get it out. Okay, so down here, weirdly, we've got a small piece of acetate. This is the actual screen for the actual instrument display. So we know we've got a decal just down in here for it, which is this little guy. And then this is all being cut as well, will come across, and then this will fit over here, which doesn't look like it fits because it looks like to me it's too small, but hey ho, that's not a problem. Any bit of acetate will take care of that. Then lastly, we've got the Photo-etched, which is quite thick. It's not flat either. This has had a huge bend in it here. See if you can see it in the thing. Something's actually been there and it's been bent. So not brilliant, but hey ho, we'll live with it. We can make it work. So it's a tape on it. But again, there's those harnesses, this framework, which will work quite nicely. We've got a nice little intake grill there, and these parts as well, which I'm not sure what they are, but that's down on there just like that. So there we go. Again, this is the thing. It's not a massively cheap kit. You know, you are paying a little bit of money for it, but you are going to end up with something very, very big. This thing's going to be 50 centimeters, which is almost the size of my cutting mat by its width as well. So it's going to take up my cutting mat down in here. You're going to have something very impressive, let's face it, at the end of the day. But you're going to need a good paint job on this one. This particular color that they use isn't as straightforward as you might feel, but just so happens I have some here. MRP do the shade. As you can see, this needs to be a very good mix. But anyway, this is to be used with the actual have glass system, but this is the base color for it, and this is the color for the actual entire fleet now of F-35s, okay? So your number for it is FS36170, okay, but as you say, this is the first sort of colour for it, which is this sort of off grey. Then you'd go around with that have glass look, which gives it the metallic reflectivity that then you can then actually put into panels and various things as you go right the way through it. Am I a fan of it? I don't know. There's various things that are lacking to me. One is, don't forget, is that these areas all round on the back here, the whole point is that they actually are supposed to get rid of the panel lines, okay? The trouble with that is though, when we look down here at the parts, it's got the panel lines in there. So actually, this is what this tape actually does. It hides away and gets rid of all those lines that can bounce radar back. Don't forget, it's all about stealth, okay? So why they bothered to actually mold in the panel lines when technically you're going to be covering them is a little bit off. Ways round it. Well, yeah, obviously you could actually leave the sticker put the sticker on it, but then you can increase the height. And reality is, although these are raised, they're not raised huge amounts, okay? So in some ways, having the panel lines in here is a bit like sort of, you know, double-edged, because yes, you're there, and if you want to open them up, you've got a good guide, but really this stuff needs to be stuck all over this to actually hide away all those panel lines. So in theory, you're not going to see those. So it's a little bit of a waste of time having all of this and having that when all you got to do is get rid of it. Easiest way to do it is obviously you could use a polyurethane tape, put that down, seal it down, you'll be absolutely good to go. Or this is again, you could just use the sticker sets and leave them physically in place. But don't forget, really you want to be going for that master look. The only other thing you could do is obviously spray these guys and then peel them off and put them on. But chances are when you're peeling, they're going to flake and it's going to give you a little bit of a problem. So again, it's going to take a little bit of thought on how you're going to tackle that absolute problem. These type of raised detail is one of those things, you either love it or hate it. Okay, so from that point of view, it's, you know, it's a personal choice. It's all up to you how you're going to go about doing it. But definitely, it's one of those kits that it's definitely on my radar to do. I'm not saying I'm going to be doing it tomorrow, but it's probably one of these kits that I will end up doing once the aftermarket guys have caught up a little bit. I'm thinking a little bit more interesting in the cockpit, just to liven it up. How? Well, I don't know, but I'm sure it can be a little bit better detail than we've got there. Maybe even something as simple as an aftermarket seat and some colour photo etch. I think that'll work a little bit better than what we've got down there. And then again, for the actual overall, maybe, you know, perhaps a little bit of improvement in the actual wheels and tyre sets, things like that. Perhaps the browsing guys might come along and do something down that way as well. And then again, you could obviously improve that engine at the back, perhaps a nice resin one in there. I think we're going an absolute treat. And then you're into realms of intakes and stuff, but personal choice on those. Anyway, that is the new tool, 100% new tool, 1/32 scale Lightning II by Italeri.